Alright, so welcome to the fourth part of our tutorial about automotive visualization. So now that we have shaded asset, let's first unhide the plane that we had there before and just delete it. Then let's save our scene. And let's also resave it as a new version. And let's reset the scene. Open render settings. Set our scene the same way it was before. That means path tracing, GIA reduced to 8. This was well, let's touch this later. I want this viewport layout. No, the other one actually. This one. This was higher. This was aligned with the save frame. And let's save it as integration v01. Now let's go to reference, xref objects, and make sure to set preset to content. Every other preset is basically messed up and something sooner or later will break in your scene. So when using external references, always use content preset. And we will just xref the car into our scene. Why am I doing this? Because once the car is basically set up and we won't be touching it anymore, it would be pointless to keep saving the scene with the car when car doesn't change at all. So since it's just referenced, I can just save the scene and it takes less than a second because there's not much stuff into the scene, inside our scene. Okay, so this is actually the viewport that I will be using. So I want it shaded and I want just one light because I want to see what's going on in the scene. And that's it basically for the basic setup. So we can start establishing the integration. Let's delete this view. Let's rename this view to scene. Grab bitmap. Let's go to the desktop, car project, HDRI plates, and let's grab our small HDRI. Let's call it Enviro. And let's turn off our filtering for now because it makes it slightly faster. Enable our environment background. Instance it. And what you can immediately notice, if we take a look at the HDRI, there's the road, and on the right side of the road there is this railroad bridge, I think. And if we take a look here, the bridge is on the left. For some reason, 3ds Max flips the spherical HDRI maps or any spherical environment maps always horizontally. So to fix it, we will do just simple fix by setting tiling to -1. Okay, so this is now done. And let's just somewhat align the car. Let's just decide the way which we want our car to be facing. So I'm gonna use more narrow field of view. I'm gonna go front. from frontal perspective and make sure I don't rotate my viewport. And then I'm gonna just use the offset to align it like this. It's a little curved, but that's basically what I want. And let's also create some sort of ground plane here. So this is gonna be 30 meters by, I don't know, how wide could this be? Let's get one of the back plates in our scene just to estimate the scale a little bit more accurately. View it. Oh, this is not a good backplate at all. We want something that tells us. They are all pretty low. Okay, this one's better. Oh, so let's say this could be like 2 meters. Okay, so let's make this 8 meters for now. We'll figure the rest out later. Okay, so once this is done, let's just fire up our interactive and make sure I unlock the viewport. This actually doesn't look bad. I really like this highlight that's going on over there. So everything looks in order. And let's check out our backplates and let's already pick one that we will be using, but Photoshop is definitely not what I wanted to do. And the new one starts really slowly, so that doesn't help it at all. Cancel. Oh, so those are DNG as well as JPEGs. So let's sort them by type. Let's take all the DNGs and I'm just gonna get rid of them. Obviously you should keep them, but I just want to have this all clean. So, okay, 4000 by 2670, that's our aspect ratio. So 4000 by 2670, which is 1.5. Let's make it 1.5, isn't it? It should be 1.5. It's not perfectly 1.5, but let's just keep it like this. Okay, so this is, now we can actually save even more space. Alright, so aspect ratio is set up. And let's pick the first plate. I want to start with something that has like not very wide lens, that has narrow lens. That usually makes car look pretty nice. Narrow lens as well as low shot. So yeah, this one could actually work. So it's 11, and what do we see is we see focal length and the ISO, f-stop. I'm trying to see if there's any camera sensor information. No, there isn't any, so we will just use one of the presets. They don't differ that much, so I hope that will work. Okay, so let's grab the 11. And now open our render settings. This will go to Corona environment, which we will enable, and this will be cleared. We will use Corona output to make sure we do not apply any color mapping on top of our environment map. Well, in case we would be applying LUT files, we may want to actually, you know what, let's just not do it. Let's do it like this. I don't really care about modifying the backplate. So this is actually the wrong place. So let's just, oh no, this is the right place, but I need to instance it in the direct visibility override, which I need to turn on first. There we go. So it's screen projection. Now we finally see correctly the same thing in both. Turn off filtering, definitely, for backplate. And let's create our camera. Definitely not making targeted. And what was it? Nikon. So let's pick generic Nikon film sensor width. And the focal length was 75 millimeters. Okay, what else was in there? F10 and exposure 1 divided by 320. So let's set F to 10 in case we would use depth of field. And 1 by 320, we won't definitely be using motion blur, but it's just a good habit to set up the camera to be matching as closely as possible. Once this is done, let's grab just Corona shadow catcher. Apply it to the ground. What was it selected before? Oh, camera. That's fine. There we go. And as backplate will go our backplate. There we go. And we need to make sure this is screen projection onto geometry. Fine. So now let's just alright, so there's a little bit of problem. I think this is the Corona version that has bug with Autodesk physical camera. So let me just create standard free camera. Go to perspective, select this one and assign it, align it to this. Okay. So this camera doesn't lag, but it doesn't support input of the values or the physical values like the camera sensor that the physical one supports. So you can see the 75 millimeters here is 114 millimeters in here, which is actually not good. So just we will always create physical camera and then convert it to native max camera. Okay, that should be sufficient workaround. And now let's just position our car to be somewhat sitting reasonably on a plate. And the scale matches with the ground structure, so our car doesn't appear too large or too small. Let's decrease the resolution for preview and just render and see what we have. And this actually doesn't look bad. So the first thing we need to do to verify is that our HDRI map is aligned properly with the backplate, which it should be, but we need to make sure. So I will make sure our naming is right. So this is BP11. This is shadow catcher. And in theory, if I now instance this into environment slot, yep, we see exactly in the same direction the kind of construction over the railroad. So maybe just slightly like this. Then it's still, I want to have it something in between like this. Okay, that is good. Let's put our backplate back in there. Now beware that sometimes 3ds Max would change the environment mapping from screen back to spherical, so you need to watch out for that. Okay, save. I'm happy with the camera, so I'm gonna just lock it. I am going to decrease the resolution even further. This is actually really supposed to be 1.5. And let's do a test render. Okay, so now we have somewhat linear image, and we can start playing with the post-processing settings. So first one I would usually do is filmic shadows, which has often nice effects. So let's resort to like 0.7, boost contrast to like 3. Highlight compression. Here's the thing. If I enable it, I get more reasonable highlights on the car, but our backplate is not HDRI, it's not high dynamic range. And what we can do is we can sort of fake it. It's not perfect solution, but it will do. What we will do is we will go to our backplate, enable output, and take this endpoint and boost it to 3. And take this Bezier and just sort of like make the curve like this. Maybe this is a bit too much, so like now you can see the difference. We are getting the depth inside of the backplate. So if I render again, yep, it's still maybe a bit too overdone, so like value of 2 should be reasonable for our backplate. So if you just do like this, you will increase the multiplier. So you have to first increase the endpoint and then return the range sort of back like this. All right, that's the result I'm after. Filmic shadows will also work better with this. So let's increase vignette like 0.5, 0.7. Let's put saturation back and let's just browse the LUT files for some nice LUT, some nice look we could apply to our image. This one is nice. This one looks really pretty. Oh, this green is nice as well. This looks really photographic. Those Fujicolor ones do look really great too. I like this one. So I like this one, but with more exposure, bit more contrast like this. Even 5. Okay, that looks really nice. White balance, maybe like 6,000 little colder tones. It's maybe a bit too much contrast. But yeah, this is the kind of response I was looking for. Let's try bloom and glare. Just a slight bloom. Glare, that is really nice glare right there. Let's rotate it by 10 degrees. Let's increase the blur slightly. Let's first overdo it so we see what we are doing. Add a little bit of color intensity and a little bit of color shift. Let's put it back to 1. Okay, that's it, I guess. So this is the first image. I really like how it looks. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna just increase the resolution 920 by 1280 or 1920 by 1280. I think the rest of the things is in order too, and I'm just gonna render. And I'm going to pause the rendering here and return once the image is a bit more refined. Okay, so I'm back. You can see we've been rendering for a little over 4 minutes. The render is already at 52 passes and it looks pretty much done at this point. So I'm going to stop the rendering. I'm going to hit Ctrl+C button right here. I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to save our scene and I'm going to launch Photoshop, and this will be our first image, and we'll just do some very slight adjustments, but most of the work is already done by the Corona frame buffer. So first thing I usually do is I duplicate the layer and use image auto contrast and auto color, and this is more like the sanity check for my perception of the colors, which can be slightly distorted when working inside of 3ds Max with the colors around. So as you can see, it just added a little bit of contrast and a little bit of green hue that I like, but I like my cold blue version as well, so I'm just gonna blend this 50% with my source. Next thing I'm gonna do is lens correction, just add some cheesy cheap chromatic aberration, because that's just what everyone does, right? And we should see it somewhere, just very slightly here. We can see just a very slight effect, but actually I wanted the blue yellow one, because that one looks a bit nicer. Okay, there we go. And the very last step I do is usually just sharpen just half a pixel, 50%, or just 1 pixel maybe. Oh, let's do 1 pixel and 33% sharpen. And that's it. Oh, cancel text. Photoshop is doing something I don't want. There we go. So this is our first image. It took just a few minutes to set up, and I think we got quite photorealistic visualization of a car. So the workflow is now established, and all we have to do is just make a few more pretty images. So let's go and do so. This is backplate 1, so let's call this cam BP1. That's it. Or backplate 11 actually, so let's make it camera BP11. And let's go and hunt for next nice backplate. So let's go to car project, HDRI plates. Now let's do some front. This is 31 millimeters. That's a little bit wide, but 48 millimeters. Yeah, let's do 0.1. So let's duplicate this, make it BP 0.1. Put it here. 3ds Max change it to spherical, so let's put it back to screen. Open render settings and replace the directly visible backplate with it as well. Okay, and something is not right here. BP01, BPO, actually I just didn't pick the actual backplate. There we go. Okay, so let's set this to preview as well. BP01, BP01, this is BP11, so let's just get rid of this, plug this one in. Let's restart the material editor so our labels update. They sometimes don't for some reason. And once this is done, let's read the EXIF data for the BP01. So this is 48 millimeters. And I guess that's all we really need at this point. So another camera. 48 millimeters this time. Disable the target. And let's just toy with the placement of the car. Enable our interactive. And again, we can see that lag. So again, go to perspective view, make sure not to touch my camera, align this new camera to it, delete the ugly physical one, call this camera cam BP01. Okay. And let's find a nice placement for our car. Yep, this looks good. Let's just take a look at what it looks like. There's some shadow going on, or maybe it's just strong vignetting. Or it may be the processing that we did. No, actually, this works as expected. Just push the car a bit back. Let's take the source image. Yeah, there's some either vignetting or some shadow. Okay, this is good. So now just again, I'm gonna quickly check if the environment matches up, and if it matches up, yep, it does in the 2 shots. Then we know that our car placement is established well, and we do not need to check for this anymore. Make sure this remained at screen. It did. So let's go again to our preview render, open our render settings, which is one of these windows, and maybe I'm gonna pick maybe slightly different LUT for this one. Yeah, just right this one. In this case, there may be different exposure of the backplate. This is quite possible. So I'm going to set the output amount to something lower. Decrease this as well. That is way too low. Okay, so this is reasonable now. The contrast sort of matches up at least. Let's just keep playing with this. Okay, this looks reasonable. Go back here, increase the highlight compression to 2. Increase the exposure to 0.5, 0.6. Could be a nice start here. Okay. Unlock my camera because I like the angle. Yeah, this doesn't actually look that bad. Maybe the contrast is a bit too much here, but generally I'm happy with this. All right, this looks fine. So again, all I'm going to do is, what is this? This one. Okay, this environment. I'm just gonna increase the resolution, hit the render. I'm gonna pause the video and get back to once it's rendered at least 50 passes. Okay, so I'm back. 3.5 minutes, 57 passes. So this is fine. Stop it, copy it, and let's do same quick and dirty post-processing as we did previously. So I'm gonna check my contrast and color. Again, I sort of like what it did, so let's just blend it 50% in. Do the cheesy trick of chromatic aberration. Sharpen it a little bit, and this one I like the format. I don't like the format, there's too much sky, so I'm just gonna do 960 vertically and crop it a little bit. Okay, and this is another picture. Everything again looks nice and fits nicely. So let's do one or two more before we wrap up this tutorial. Okay, so let's hunt for another backplate. You know what? Let's do this one, and let's turn on the lights on a car. So this is 06, which is 31 millimeters. That's gonna be pretty wide, but let's see how it works. BP06 as a backplate, as our viewport background, as well as our directly visible environment. Oh, let's actually make it BP06. So again, I'm gonna just create physical camera for reference, and it's gonna be, what was it again, 31 millimeters. Then go to perspective, create free camera, match it to the viewport, so here it's converted. Delete physical camera, so we can see there's no difference. So physical camera is here. Oh, that was weird. 31 millimeters. I was confused that it looked, the value was so close. So again, physical camera at 31 millimeters. Great. Go to perspective, create max, create max standard camera. Okay, now it's different number finally. Delete the physical camera. Okay, and now we can place the car again, and we will have to play with the backplate tone mapping a little bit again too. Let's just first find some nice angle for the car. Alright, so I don't want it to be perfectly facing us, so let's just select everything, keyframe it, enable auto key. Let's put this out of the way, create a new keyframe, and here want to turn it slightly. Maybe like this. Take these wheels, turn them slightly in. Like this. Okay, that looks great. Alright, I'm happy with this. So this is going to be cam BP06. And the backplate sort of looks matching, but the lookup table we are using is a bit strong again. So I want, first of all, revert to preview resolution. Okay, there's definitely a bit more contrast that I wanted. And the backplate is way too crashed. So let's try this. Okay, this looks better. Definitely better. So I'm gonna revert the contrast now. And just do one more test. Okay, this looks appropriate. Just decrease this because there's something weird going on with our wheel. Actually. There we go, that's what I want. All right. So again, let's go through the process of picking up a nice lookup table for this angle, something that enhances the mood. You know what, actually, let's maybe, oh no, that's actually, just this previous one is nice. Yeah, let's go with this and let's try to turn off the lights even though they are in sun, but we'll see, maybe it works out. So first let's see if there's some geometry we could take advantage of. There are definitely the cases for the light bulbs, but there doesn't seem to be any actual light bulbs in there. What would happen if we just added a sphere here that would serve as a light bulb? Well, first of all, actually, let's revert to our previous frame where the car is perfectly straight, so it's easier to set this up. Okay, now we have one sphere. Let's put it here. And let's consider this light bulb. And create corner material. It has sort of, where is our car project directory? Here it is. Blue light. Okay. So let's get that nice deep blue. Oops. Okay. Well, something definitely is going on in there, but I'm not really sure that's what we want, and we just crashed. So I will get this resolved and I will be back as soon as possible. Okay, we are back. I just recovered the scene and everything seems to work properly. So I decided I will simplify it because we don't have that much time. but generally I see that those light casings are flooded with light, so I will just simply take a few of these components, detach them, and make them glowing. So for that we will need to merge this thing. Actually, just use this edit poly. Alright, fine. Make sure to attach this to the car body because we have it animated for the next pose. That was to the car light, but then again it doesn't really matter. Open our material editor, assign the light bulb. Okay, this was our pose, or this was our camera. This is our pose. Let's do test render. Yep, lights are lit up, maybe a bit more than we would want, and we still don't get the deep blue illumination. So that's better, but again it's daylight, so let's just ease it up a little bit. Yep, that looks actually pretty nice. So let's return to the entire frame. Okay, I'm happy with this. So again, I'm just going to increase the resolution. Let it render. I'm gonna pause the video and get back to once it's rendered. Alright, 5 minutes, 53 passes. Let's stop this. And let's bring it in Photoshop again for a few quick tweaks. So again, just sanity check of contrast and color. This one is too radical, so let's say 35% at most. Cheesy aberration, sharpening, and let's just grab gradient, black one. I want to see some kind of stormy sky, which doesn't really work with black gradient. Okay, that's better. Linear burn always worked for me, but it seems to be messing up color. In this case, yeah, I guess this is what I was after, just make the sky be a bit stormy and boost, play with the curves just slightly. So I get that kind of storm is approaching feeling. Yeah, I guess that's another one. Nope, it's Control 0. There we go, we have 3. This last one could use a little bit more matching to those previous ones. So shadows could go a bit green and blue and cyan. And general saturation could go lower a bit. I'm just going to destroy every adjustment I do. I just don't like to keep layers up. Yep, that's another one. We look closely, we can see those nice flakes showing up just slightly here, and also the glare works really nicely here as well. So let's do one more. Let's do rear shot and let's wrap it up after that. So return the car to our original position by moving the keyframe. Let's go car project and HDRI plates, and let's pick something in opposite direction. That could be our car from the rear. This one is 21 millimeters. That's definitely too wide. 18 millimeters. 45 millimeters, 75 millimeters. That's kind of 75 millimeters. Oh, this could look really good. 75 millimeters though. When the lens is really narrow, the cars tend to look really great. So let's do 0.8. So let's set this aside. BP 0.8. Big D 0.8 here. And again, we want it as our directly visible environment. Let's set this back to our preview resolution. We want it as our shadow catcher, and we want it as our viewport background. All right, now let's move this back where it belongs. And again, first create a buggy 3ds Max physical camera and use its field of view to create the old camera. This bug by the way, this bug with physical camera lag should be resolved very soon, at latest in Corona 1.6. So again, Nikon, and the 75 millimeters. 75 millimeters, no target. So this works. Perspective view, create free camera, and match the view. Then delete the physical camera, get a free camera, cam BP 08. I'm gonna minimize this, I'm gonna maximize this. And I am going to play with the placement the car. On our backplate. Let's also turn this on. Again, here we'll have to tone map the environment to better match the car, or the HDRI exposure rather. I'm having a hard time picking a right angle here because there is not that much to hold on to when it comes to matching the perspective. But I would say this is probably just fine. So again, let's do quick preview. Maybe just slightly like this. Okay, and then again fiddle with the backplate exposure a little bit. So this one is one of those that should be darker, like this maybe. Yeah. Let's take our car body, enable auto key, and let's see if we can figure out maybe better angle for the car, like this, something a bit more interesting that has some punch. We put it actually on the wrong frame. There we go. Yeah, that actually looks pretty good. So disable the auto key, run the preview, again browse the looks. The LUTs are a bit cheesy, but I just enjoy them for some reason. So again, hey, actually this one, right, this one looks great. Maybe a bit overexposed. Yeah, that's it really. I'm really happy with this. So just increase the resolution, let it render. Damn, that actually really looks good. Alright, so I'm gonna let this render and I'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, so we are back. 59 passes, 5 minutes. Let's stop it. Copy this, go back to Photoshop, create a new one. And again, just a bunch of cheesy adjustments. So again, some sanity check. I'm gonna desaturate this one right away because I can tell there's a bit more saturation. Then I'm gonna do sponge tool, saturate, and bring a little bit of the color back to the lights. But I'm gonna desaturate this weird thing because I don't like it. Okay, and now again the cheese aberration, and I'm done with this. Maybe just a little bit more of the contrast for this one. Okay, we have this one, this one, this one, this one. So yeah, I guess that's it for this part of the tutorial. There will be one more, just some conclusion, and then that will be it. So see you in the next part. Goodbye.